So with this next phase, I'm going to talk about the GLAAD, which is the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. They have let LGBT youth share their story, offer advice to adults to end bullying. So, and I did print out a little bit of what they wrote in order to share it with you guys about GLAAD, and then after that I'm gonna read about 3 practical strategy for teacher, counselor, and staff and staff can use to prevent adolescent bullying. So let's start here. Almost done. This is LGBT youth share their story, offer advice to adults, and to end bullying. That is published by GLAAD for today's anti-bullying day, Spirit Day. It reads, although June is often heralded as the LGBTQ community biggest month, October all the place our hearts has a critically important month for our community. Beyond honoring LGBTQ History Month and National Coming Out Day, our community take action for National Bullying Prevention Month and Spirit Day to combat the staggering level of verbal and physical harassment faced by youth. Bullying is the pervasive problem in the LGBT community, with over 87% of youth reporting being bullied. When 59% of the LGBT students feel unsafe at school because of their sexual orientation, we must require ourselves as fellow community members and allies to take action. If you want to combat bullying and make a difference in your community, look to the young people who have faced and are facing bullying to learn what they wish the parents, educators, and other adults in their life would do to support them and end bullying. We're starting with Daniel Segoviano. Daniel Segoviano is from the University of California, Santa Cruz. He's there. Let me read his story very quickly. It reads, my story. I am a femme, gay man. Femme means someone who is gender non-conforming, who is whose gender mostly go beyond male and female, who look a little bit feminine, and yeah. So he said, I am femme, a gay man, and since kindergarten, I've always felt accepted by my friend, but appreciation of my outward expression didn't reach far past my small friend group. I was bullied for being too femme, and to avoid being teased, I've deepened my voice around others. In PE, I'd always be told that I played like a girl, or that I was not good enough to play with the other boys because I was too gay. I was always being labeled as too girly for being around so many women, and also shunned from masculine group because no one wanted to be hit on by a gay boy. To the other boys, my mannerisms were a sort of oddity that they hoped wouldn't catch on. Even my father advised me to act more like a man rather than more like myself. Now he's giving advice. He's giving advice to adults. Advice to adults: normalize gender as being a spectrum, which means diversified. Normalize introducing yourself with pronoun. Normalize LGBTQ plus identities. Bring more representation in your classroom or communities, and make sure you are aware of the resources available in your queer, transgender identified student. You don't always need to be the answer, but failing to at least address the issue is not okay. Complacency only continues the perpetual cycle of bullying LGBTQ plus folks experience. Believe in your student and children. Stop being a bigot. Open yourself up. Educate yourself on bullying, their resources on the internet, and address the issue. Stop being a bystander and doing nothing. So here's another student. Her name is Athena Strauss. She's a student in the University of Utah. There she is. She said her story. She shared her story as well. It read: in elementary school, I never fit in. I never fit in with just girl or just boy. I was never femme enough to fit in with the girls, and I was never masculine enough to hang out with the guys. For most of my elementary school years, people always hang out with their gender groups. I often found myself alone, and when I would try to fit in with others, I would be made fun of. I remember for my 7th birthday, some girl gave me a Thomas the Train toys, told me she got that for me because that's what boys like. I cried and I cried and cried to my mom because I wasn't a boy. I'd always known that I wasn't a girl either, but didn't know what I was until high school. Even when I came out as non-binary or gender non-conforming person, I still faced being bullied for not being normal. I never fit I've never fit in the norm, and I'm still working on fully understanding that's okay. Her advice her their advice to adult, because it's a gender non-conforming person. um Advice to adult. My advice to educator and the parents who want to combat bullying in school and community is to believe people who say they are being bullied. Learn about the sign of someone who is being bullied. Some people may not just come up and say that they are being bullied. Bullying can happen outside of school and at many different points in life. Reminds LGBT youth that they are not alone. Be honest about bullying. Don't simply say to just ignore it or it will just go away. If you are comfortable and it's applied to you, say that you remember that it was like you remember what it was like to feel bullied. Be vulnerable. Have a conversation with them and ask how you can support them. As someone who was bullied and felt alone, all I want was someone to connect to. So that's our next student. And here comes another student whose name is Parker Ray from the University of Technology in Texas. University Tech in Texas. There is. People are being bullied. It's not a joke. And it's not a game. It's reality. It's happening, and it's happening across the country and around the world, and it has to stop. So his advice to adults is social group social support structure are imperative to the success of LGBT youth, as well as helping them foster a healthy sense of self. Educators and parents need to remember that LGBT youth still to this day grow up surrounded by cultural images and cues that suggest to them that their identity is evil or inherently wrong. The number one thing I believe parents and educators can do to combat the bullying of LGBTQ individuals is to talk about LGBTQ youth and people in a very humanizing way. Parents and educators are points of authorities for youth, and so it is their job to set the tone. Expectation and acceptable behavior pertaining to the human and ethical treatment of the students' queer peers. Setting the tone and combating the negative social narrative about LGBTQ people is how educators and parents can create more inclusive and equitable space for LGBT youth. So here we have another student from the University of Michigan. Her name is Shannon Lee. So she has something to say as well about bullying. So her advice to adults is it's weird. My advice to parents and educators who want to combat bullying in school community is to get students involved in the school's anti-bullying program. If it is implemented, if not, start it. Integrating anti-bullying initiative into the curriculum will teach kids at an age early age that the harm and impact of bullying and why they should not bully. Educating students about the importance of support network and community will teach them to value each other and support one another during difficult times. Example include empowering students to take action and appropriately respond to inappropriate behavior. Reinforcing school value is important for preventing unacceptable behavior, and hopefully parents and educators around the world take action in preventing bullying. Here comes another one. A.G. Lawrence is from Berklee College of Music. There is. Let's go to hear what he has to say. And here comes his story. Start by his story, and then the list goes on. And my story. I went to a very small high school in Kansas. I was one of the maybe of 3 people of color, so racism in small talks and bullying were more in reference in conversation. People saying you are the whitest black kid I know, and other things like the talk went on from middle school until I graduated high school. I honestly didn't know it was bullying until I got to college and learned from experience that people don't say that unless they are being backhanded. In this case, I think it was bullying and harassment because it was targeting as well as race, which is a protected class, which qualify as harassment, bullying and harassment actually. So the advice to adults is listen closely to what your child pupils say, be an ally and a parent to them. They are looking for someone to help them validate that their pain is real and they are reaching out for a solution. Help them out and take them seriously. That's his advice. And here come another person, another student whose name is Ty Johnson from Prairie View A&M University. And she's a person of color as well, as you can see. Um, she has something to say too. She has something to say as well about bullying. My story: I first experienced bullying when I was in elementary school, the most experience but the most extreme point was when I reached middle school. I used to get verbally, physically harassed every day to the point I hated waking up in the morning, and I seriously battled with finding the strength to continue living. As a child, that was something I was never prepared for, and it was something that kept me going because I knew at a young age if I made it through that point of my life, I'd be able to help kids like myself in the future. So she has advice. Advice to adults, my advice to parents and educators of LGBTQ youth is that your acknowledgement is important. Your words of encouragement are everything. If you are an educator, please understand that your role in the life of a child is important. If you notice a change in your child or a child's personality, please reach out to them. If you notice that a child is getting picked on, please step in and help them. But that help isn't limited to that particular situation. Ask them how their day is going. Just reach out and be a confident emotional support is critical to LGBT youth in the education system. Here come another one. His name is Orion Ebert from the University of Houston, Texas. Oh, there she is. So she has a story as well. The reason why I'm focusing on this because it's very important. Bullying is happening. It's not just happening to young people. It's happening to adults. It's happening to. I've been reading all over across the all the ages of bullying and harassment. So it's something that's happening and that need to be addressed and stopped. And people have to stop being bystander. People need to act. And these students here are giving very important advices on how to address it, especially when it comes to LGBTQ people, which are the number one target of bullying and harassment. My story. So she is telling a story right now. I remember being in college prep class where we were going over preparing arguments, and the topic this time was whether LGBTQ plus folks should be able to get married. I was technically out at the time, but two other students outed themselves through the debate, causing the three of us to have to defend our own identity against five other students. I had never felt so invalidated, and the teacher did nothing to stop the conversation until I started crying. Allowing the debate to even happen created a vacuum of bigotry that severely divided the classroom and made queer students feel forced to come out in unsafe space. In response, I was able to band together with my allied classmates to create LGBTQ plus bullying awareness events and workshops for our teachers. That's one of the bravest students I know. So her advice to adults: when creating assignment or activity, look at the type of issue you're addressing in those classes and consider how those issues impact your students from marginalized community. Although there are several hot topics that our student and community will always be separated on, you have a responsibility to keep these discussions civil, respectful, and shut down anything that breach that rule, even if it is disguised as something respectful. All right, almost done. Almost done with this. Oh God, it's been a long day, but it's a day that focuses on bullying, so we have to get this done. Talk to your community about the importance of respecting, not just tolerating, the experience and voice of marginalized community. If you want to make a change for the better and create spaces where bullying is eradicated, it starts with you. Shutting bullying down in the spaces you have power. You have to speak up to shut bullying down. Nicole Geminti, she's a student at Berkeley College of Music, and she has something to say about bullying too. And there she is. All right, let's see what she has to say. Let's read it. My story. I was harassed several times by men I didn't know who had hit on me from the comfort of their social media profile. After I turned them down because I'm gay, this was often due to the fact that they were offended that I was feminine presenting, like it was a way of leading them on to not look or act like a lesbian. While it was only verbal abuse online, I sometimes got violent threats that made me fear for my personal safety. Wow. My advice to adult. My main advice to educators and parents who are trying to stop the epidemic. This epidemic is to take any sort of bullying, harassment, or verbal abuse very seriously. Just because someone may seem like it's just taunting or not a should deal, you shouldn't just avoid it and hope it blows over. This kind of treatment of LGBT youth lead to larger, more serious things as it constantly progresses, such as higher rate of mental illness among that demographic. Guardians of this youth have to take action, otherwise it will never end. Take LGBT youth very seriously in order to avoid more severe problems down the line. By nipping it in the bud as quickly as possible and make sure to teach acceptance, tolerance to bully and harasser. So here come another one. Many students came forward on this GLAAD platform to talk about bullying, which means it's a serious problem. His name is Si Le Feng, and he's a student at the University of California, Santa Cruz. He shares his story too. My story. From a very early age, I knew that I didn't like girly things. Oh, she's actually a lesson. I kept my hair short. I played exclusively with boys, and I didn't care that I stuck out like a sore thumb in my traditional town. However, due to my differences, I was a frequent target of bullying from kindergarten all the way until high school. The bullying ranged from the more benign acts of teasing me and taking my lunch to physical attacks of violence, which consisted of shoves, pushed, getting jumped, and beaten up in the locker rooms. My advice to adults is My biggest regret is never telling my parents or teacher I was bullied because I was afraid that they would find out the reason for me being bullied. I didn't want to I didn't want to put myself. It's also one of my parents' biggest regrets that they weren't able to help me through one of the toughest time of my life. I would ask those parents and teachers that would be heartbroken if a child they love was being bullied their to always keep their ears listening, their mind open, and their heart full. Another one here comes Harold Daniel from Florida International University. There he is, sharing his story too. Alright. My story. I feared going to school throughout my elementary and middle school years. Being mocked for my feminine mannerism affected my mental health. I was called names that I didn't know the meaning of at the time. Meanwhile, I had my parents back at home telling me to act more masculine in a Hispanic household. It was difficult for me growing up. It was a scary time having to hide who I really am to avoid the continuing harassment both at home and in school. Advice to adults: talk to your kids, make them feel comfortable reaching out to you, because without that connection, you will not know what they are going through. Teach them how to spread kindness, compassion. It all begins at home and in the classroom. Education is the key to understanding differences. Get involved in your child's life at school. Speaking to the educator without your support and your stand against bullying, we can prevent it. And here come another student. He's from the University of Houston as well. His name is Jason Bijak. And almost done here. And there he is, sharing his story too. My story. I've been called names by student and teacher since first grade for being trans because before I even knew what being trans meant. I've even been told to find a new career because a trans educator is inappropriate. My advice is to be an active ally to your LGBT youth and especially transgender students. Educate yourself before you say anything inappropriate and encourage others to do the same. And there is another student as well, Jose Aragon from Ohio State University. This is so pervasive. Something needs to be done. And there she is, sharing her story too. Oh my God, this bullying have to stop. My advice to parents and educators is to educate themselves on LGBTQ issues so they don't project their ignorance, implicit bias onto our queer youth. In my experience, people assume the way I identify my mannerism and my belief were incorrect because they didn't understand them. So much of the negativity I experienced when I was younger couldn't have been avoided with education and tolerance. About Spirit Day, Every year, millions go purple for GLAAD, which is a gays and lesbian uh, alliance against defamations. Um, Spirit dares to support LGBT youth in the in a united stand against bullying. Spirit dares draw the participation of celebrities, schools, faith institutions, national landmark corporations, media outlets, sport leagues, and advocates around the world, all joining together to stand against bullying and support LGBT youth. Take the spirit they play to show LGBT youth you've got their backs at glide.org/spirit day. Follow Glide on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram to follow all this that spirit day action. So I think I'm done with this piece. Yes. And okay. Hold on. The person who wrote it is Clara Kenny. He's the director of youth engagement at GLAAD. She leads GLAAD Campus Ambassador Program, Rising Star Grant Program, and AMP Series. Claire is a graduate of Skidmore College. There she is. Let me just show you her quickly. There Claire is. All right. Let me now read quickly 3 ways. Oh my God. Almost done. Let me quickly read 3 ways. 3 practical strategies that teacher, counselor, and staff can use to prevent adolescent bullying. It was published from a blog called Community for Children's Blog. So it reads, addressing bullying is a difficult task for any educator, but it's particularly challenging for those of us who work with adolescents. Addressing bullying doesn't fit the traditional image of bullying. Adolescent bullying doesn't fit, or teenage bullying doesn't fit the traditional image of bullying. It's less direct. Instead of teasing and name calling, it's rumor, it's subtweeting. Instead of pushing people and breaking things, it's social ostracism. In place of clear power dynamics, influence constantly shifting. The person doing the bullying one day can become the target of bullying the next. Instead of being a sign of poor social emotional skill, it is a sign of well-developed skill being used in unfortunate ways. Instead of happening in views of adult and in clear violation of school norms, it's quite strategically done away from adults' presence in a way that scared rules designed to prevent it. Adolescent bullying is often successful because you have no idea it's going on, and the top of this uplifting face paragraph. Bullying peaks in early adolescence. 60% of adolescents or teenagers report being bullied. 58% report bullying others, and 90% report regularly witnessing bullying. None of this is news. To experience middle and high school educator identify the issue isn't a problem. What educators continue to struggle with to this day is how to reduce its prevalence. Many bullying prevention strategies have shown positive effects among elementary school students, but when they are applied to teenagers, they lose their effectiveness or even make bullying worse. Don't despair. Recent research shows that there is a way forward. First, throw out any strategy you're using that are derived from elementary level bullying prevention. Then focus on these 3 developmentally appropriate strategy, and in this order. Build a safe and supportive school climate. It is important to resist the urge to focus on punishing individual or banning specific behavior. You'd be playing whack-a-mole, and any positive result would be modest and temporary. Instead of focus on changing the overall school environment to promote behavior you want, develop school rules and norms your student not you see as clear and fair. Promote positive peer relationships and provide opportunity for students and staff to build strong personal relationships with each other. A great first step is to conduct a school climate survey to identify where to focus your effort. A second step is to create a space in the school day for students to build positive relationship. Advisory programs are ideal for this. Finally, implement a developmentally appropriate social emotional learning program like the second step middle school program to weave concepts like kindness and respect into the fabric of your school. Schools that do this can decrease bullying without ever specifically using word bullying with students. The second strategy of eradicating bullying in teenage is implementing effective prevention program. Implement a developmentally appropriate bullying prevention program that focuses on bystander. The key words in that sentence are developmentally appropriate and bystander, so I'll repeat them for emphasis. Developmentally appropriate bystander, I can hear what you're saying. Thank you very much, Captain Obvious. What does this actually look like? Good question. Developmentally appropriate mean two things. First, talking about the kind of bullying that's actually happening among teenagers, indirect socially oriented bullying. Students have the same misconception about what bullying looks like as adults. If they are looking for the kind of bullying that happened in elementary school, they won't recognize as bullying the behavior they see and do themselves every day. Second, address bullying is a way that respects adolescent or teenage sense of autonomy. Thousands of years of evolution has primed teenagers to push back against adult authority, and we are not going to overcome that. Don't tell them what they should do, suggest what they might do. Don't focus on how bad those people are who engage in bullying. Focus on what a positive thing it is to help those targeted by bullying. How empower students to take action themselves to help stop bullying, and trust that they actually have more power than you to 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 than you do to make a real difference. Harnessing this power is why it's so important to focus on promoting positive bystander reaction to bullying. Although we may never see the bullying that happened at our school, most acts of adolescent bullying are witnessed by peers. That's the whole point of bullying among teenagers. When those bystanders refuse to reward students who bully with social status, then those students will turn to other more pro-social strategies to climb the social hierarchy. Number 3, don't focus on bullying in isolation. Harassment starts to become a significant issue in adolescence, and bullying and harassment are very much intertwined issues. Research shows that students who engage in homophobic name-calling, such as using the word gay as derogatory figures early in adolescence, are more likely to engage in bullying later on. And schools that are more permissive of sexual harassment and sexual harassment and harassment of LGBTQ students experience higher level of bullying. Not only will addressing harassment help reducing bullying, but it will help foster a safe and supportive school climate, especially for LGBTQ youth who experience bullying at a far higher rate than others and also have far higher rate of depression and suicide. None of this step is easy, well, except tossing out elementary basic intervention, but nothing about addressing bullying really is. The good news is that by reading this blog post, you demonstrating that you are active and engaging in this issue with bode well for the adolescents you work with. And now there is a clear research-based way to learn more. I highly encourage you to check out the article I've cited in this post. They are all practical and readable, and I think you will appreciate what they have to say. For those of you who are teaching the second step middle school program, I encourage you to explore the program professional development resources to learn important social emotional learning concepts and classroom strategy, many of which are foundational to building prevention at this stage. So I'm done for today. I did what I could. And thank you very much. And don't be a bystander. Act when you see bullying taking place, either through stopping it or through fostering a culture of tolerance, acceptance, and conditional love, and try so hard to banish and shun bigotry. Educate yourself on LGBTQ issues and the issues surrounding bullying and harassment and how to intervene and prevent it. Thank you so much. Again, this is me, Junior Maema. Thank you. Bye-bye.